The Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be the successor to one of the best selling video game consoles ever. But to live up to its predecessor, the Nintendo Switch 1, it needs to live up to its standards as well. And it can do that by having a good name, good advertising, but most importantly, good games. So today, I'm going to discuss what Nintendo exclusives will make the Switch 2 succeed just as well as the Switch 1, Nintendo's best selling home console and the third best selling console of all time. So before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you don't forget to turn on post notifications to know when I post another video. But without further ado, let's jump right in. So this video is the first of a three-part series that I'm making. The goal of this series is to develop a perfect release schedule for the first 2 years of the Nintendo Switch 2's games, essentially the games that have a priority release. And we will be using the first 2 years of the Nintendo Switch 1's release schedule to do that. In today's video, I will be looking over what the first 2 years of the Nintendo Switch 1's releases looked like and analyzing them to help build the first 2 years of game releases for the Nintendo Switch 2. In the second video, I will add any additional franchises that deserve a game in the Switch 2's first 2 years of releases. And in the third video, I will put it all together to build the perfect Switch 2 release schedule. If any of what I just said sounds confusing, I'll sum it up in the description, but it should make sense as you watch. But before we jump into part 1, we must decide which of the games in the Nintendo Switch 1's first 2 years are eligible to make the list, because there are just far too many games for me to fit into one video, let alone a 3-part series. Firstly, all franchises must have at least 2 games that have been released to be included. Second, all full games that are a branch of major franchises, I'm counting them as a part of the franchise that they branch out of. And finally, I won't be including games like Hyrule Warriors because I haven't even heard of it until I started doing research for this video, so I don't really think it would fit well into the Switch 2 plan anyway. But with all those rules out of the way, let's jump right into the first game. So to start off the video, we'll go over the release games on the Switch 1. These are the games that released on March 3rd, 2017, along with the Nintendo Switch 1. On the Switch 1's release day in 2017, there were 2 games that released that qualify for this list, which were 1-2 Switch and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think having a Zelda game on launch day was a pretty good move, especially considering that this was a 3D Zelda sandbox. 1-2 Switch served as the tech demo for the Nintendo Switch, and that wouldn't have been a problem if this game didn't cost $50. I haven't played it, but I have played the sequel, Everybody 1-2 Switch, which isn't half bad, but it also retails for $20 cheaper than 1-2 Switch. So I think that if you release a game that's more of a tech demo than anything, it should be free to play or priced more decently. So shortly after the release of the Switch, Nintendo ported over Mario Kart 8 from the Wii U, while including the Wii U DLC that was on Mario Kart 8 and revising the battle mode, which was atrocious to begin with. And this formed Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and they couldn't have made a better move because a literal game port from another console with a little bit of added content is now the best-selling Switch game. Since Nintendo has already revealed footage of the Mario Kart sequel, it's clear that they've got their priorities straight and that the new Mario Kart will be released in year 1 if not at launch. Splatoon 2 is next up on the list, which released in August of 2017. Honestly, I wouldn't expect another Splatoon game to release as rapidly as Splatoon 2 did after the Switch came out. However, there has been another sequel released since then, being Splatoon 3, so I guess there could be another sequel in the first 2 years, but I just don't think it'll happen until at least year 2. Super Mario Odyssey was the next game to be released on the Switch 1, and this was a major title for the Switch 1. I mean major. 3D Mario is one of Nintendo's best-selling franchises, so I have no doubt that we'll get a new one within the first 2 years. When Nintendo releases a Mario game, it's basically guaranteed to sell millions of copies, no questions asked. The next game that released for the Switch 2 in 2017 that actually qualifies for this list is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Honestly, I don't think that Xenoblade's at the top of Nintendo's agenda for the Switch 2, at least not right now. Especially since a port of Xenoblade X is being ported to the Switch this year, so I wouldn't expect a new game for a little while. But I've also never played Xenoblade, so maybe I'm wrong. So now we've made it to 2018, and the first 2018 exclusive for Switch was Kirby Star Allies. If Nintendo puts a Kirby game on the Switch 2 at about the same time that Star Allies came out, I think they have their Kirby bases covered, just as long as it's a longer playthrough than Star Allies was. I definitely think that Kirby is a priority franchise of Nintendo with a great fan base, so I have no problem predicting that there will be a Kirby game on Switch 2 within the first 2 years of its lifespan. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is the next release landing itself on this list. I think that a Donkey Kong game would be great for Switch 2, especially since it's been over 10 years since Tropical Freeze originally released on the Wii U, and since Donkey Kong is a great 2D platformer for those who need a bit more of a challenge than 2D Mario. Now we've made it to June of 2018 with Mario Tennis Aces. I think Mario Sports has had a rather rough generation on Switch, with Mario Golf Super Rush and Mario Strikers Battle League being some of the most disliked games on the console. While I've never played Tennis Aces, I've heard better things about it on Switch than Super Rush and Battle League. But I wouldn't say that I would expect it to be a priority release for Nintendo, especially since sport games are not Nintendo bestsellers compared to the other games that they make. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker also lands itself on this list. Honestly, this is a game that I really couldn't predict the future for, even if I tried. It did sell 2.35 million units on the Switch, which usually means it wouldn't be enough to get a sequel, but it's also a port on the Switch, the second port. That means that this game has been released 3 times on different consoles, with the other two being on Wii U and 3DS. On Wii U, it sold 1.37 million units, and the 3DS it sold less than a million, but assuming it sold about a million, adding all those numbers together would result in 4.72 million, which I would think would be enough to get a sequel, but it might not. I would love to get a sequel for it, and I think it would work great on Switch too, but it's just too hard to tell if it would be able to get a sequel. So I think I'll just put it on hold for now. Super Mario Party is the next game that makes it onto this list, and contrary to Captain Toad, Mario Party is actually very easy to predict release patterns for. You see, since Mario Party 9 came out in 2012, all of the home console Mario parties have been released every 3 years after their most recent predecessors, with Super Mario Party Jamboree being the most recent entry, which came out last October. So, if the trend continues, we will get a new Mario Party in 2027, but I could see it maybe being earlier than that, just so they have a new Mario Party on Switch 2 earlier. But the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible, so it's not like playing a Switch 1 Mario Party is out of the realm of possibility. Okay, so Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu is the next game that came out. Now, I don't play Pokemon, but I can also guarantee that a new Pokemon game will come out within the first 2 years of the Switch 2's lifespan, since Nintendo seems to have very short gaps between the games, but I'm pretty confident that one will make it on Switch 2 in the first 2 years. I think it's a priority for Nintendo. Okay, so we're finally at the end of 2018, and we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that came out in December. I would think that Nintendo would have a new Smash game as a high priority since copies of Smash always fly off the shelf, so I think that a new Smash would be released within the first 2 years of the Switch 2's lifespan. If not, it'd be in year 3, but I think they have their priorities straight. Now that we've reached the end of the Switch One's 2018, I'll conclude the video here, but I do have a second part coming out soon as well as a third part, so be on the lookout for those. But before that happens, jump down to the comments section to share your thoughts on today's video, and please don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you don't miss part 2 and part 3. Thank you for watching and have a great day.